Most of us step onto planes thinking about our destination. Vacations, business trips, reunions, home. We trust a machine to lift us 10,000 meters into the sky and bring us back safely. But sometimes, the sky doesn't give second chances. Sometimes, a normal flight becomes a screaming, shaking, unstoppable fall. No escape, no pause button, no mercy. Today, we're not talking about accidents. We're talking about the worst ways people have died in plane crashes. Real stories, real terror, and final moments that lasted far too long. This is not meant to scare you. This is meant to remind you how fragile life is. Welcome to Humans Are Whack. And we're starting right now. On July 19th, 1989, United Airlines Flight 232 took off like any other flight. 296 people on board. Families, business travelers, kids, crew. Everything was normal until the tail engine exploded at 37,000 feet. Shrapnel ripped through the plane and cut all 3 hydraulic systems. That's when the crew realized something horrifying. The plane could no longer steer. It could no longer turn properly. It could no longer control its descent. They were flying a 470,000-pound machine with no real control. The pilots tried something that had never been done before. They used engine thrust alone to try to steer the plane. For 44 minutes, passengers felt the aircraft slowly losing the fight with gravity. Inside the cabin, people were crying. Some were praying. Some were writing final notes. When the plane finally reached Sioux City, it was coming in too fast and too unstable. It hit the runway. Next is, on June 1st, 2009, Air France Flight 447 left Rio de Janeiro for Paris. 228 people on board. A normal overnight flight across the Atlantic. Most passengers were asleep. Somewhere over the ocean, the plane flew into a massive storm system. Ice crystals clogged the airspeed sensors. The autopilot disconnected. And in a few seconds, the pilots lost reliable speed information. What happened next is one of the most tragic examples of human confusion under pressure. The co-pilot pulled the nose up. At 35,000 feet, the plane began to stall, but the crew didn't realize it. For 4 long minutes, the aircraft was falling out of the sky, not diving, not spiraling, just dropping, at over 10,000 feet per minute. Inside the cabin, people would have felt weightlessness, sudden drops. Screaming alarms, the floor rising and falling beneath them. Some passengers would have woken up mid-fall. Imagine opening your eyes in the dark, feeling the plane shuddering, hearing the engines screaming, and realizing you are not flying anymore. You are falling, and you will keep falling. For 4 full minutes, the plane finally hit the Atlantic Ocean at full speed. There was no explosion, just instant, total destruction. All 228 people died, not in a sudden surprise, but in minutes of terror, trapped in a falling machine, with no idea how close death already was. Next is, on October 13th, 1972, a Uruguayan Air Force plane carrying a rugby team and their friends crashed into the Andes Mountains. The pilots misjudged their position. The plane clipped a mountain peak. The wings were torn off. The fuselage slid down a glacier like a missile and finally stopped in the middle of nothing but ice and death. Out of 45 people on board, many died instantly, but some survived. At first, it felt like a miracle. Then reality set in. They were over 3,500 meters above sea level in freezing temperatures with no rescue coming and almost no food. Days passed. Then weeks. The cold killed some in their sleep. Injuries killed others slowly. Then an avalanche buried the wreckage and suffocated 8 more people in the night. And the worst part? They eventually realized the search had been called off. No one was coming. The survivors faced an impossible choice: starve to death or eat the bodies of their friends. And they did, not out of madness, out of desperation. For 72 days, they lived in the wreckage of a broken plane, surrounded by corpses, freezing, starving, watching people die one by one. Some died from infections, some from exposure, some just gave up. When rescue finally came, only 16 were still alive. The others didn't die in a crash. They died, slowly, cold, hungry, and fully aware they were being picked off by time and nature. This wasn't a plane crash. This was a 2-month descent into hell. If these stories are hitting you, take 1 second and subscribe. We tell the stories most channels are too afraid to touch. Like the video so YouTube shows it to more people, and comment where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. Alright, let's keep going. On August 24th, 2001, an Airbus A330 took off from Toronto to Portugal with 306 people on board. Halfway across the Atlantic, something went wrong. A small fuel leak. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. Just fuel slowly draining into the sky. The cockpit instruments were lying. The crew thought they had plenty of fuel. They didn't. At 39,000 feet, both engines shut down. At the same time, the plane didn't explode. It didn't dive. It went completely silent. A 200-ton aircraft became a glider. No engines. No thrust. Just wind and gravity. Inside the cabin, people felt the silence before they understood it. No engine noise. No vibration. Just the sound of 300 people breathing and praying. The pilots had 19 minutes to find somewhere, anywhere, to land. They aimed for a small airbase in the Azores. They were too high, then too low. They barely made the runway. The plane hit the ground hard. Landing gear collapsed. Sparks. Fire. Panic. A mass evacuation. Amazingly, no one died, but many were injured. And if they had missed that runway by seconds, this would have been 300 deaths. Next is, on August 14th, 2005, Helios Airways Flight 522 took off from Cyprus heading to Prague. Everything looked normal. The weather was fine. The aircraft was fine. The passengers were calm. But before takeoff, something small was set wrong in the cockpit. A single switch. A pressurization setting. Nobody noticed. As the plane climbed higher, the oxygen inside the cabin slowly disappeared. At first, passengers probably felt dizzy, then confused, then tired. The pilots started feeling it too. Their thinking slowed. Their reactions dulled. The warning alarms were going off, but in their oxygen-starved state, they misinterpreted them. One by one, everyone on board lost consciousness. The plane didn't crash. Not yet. It kept flying. On autopilot, a ghost plane. Fighter jets were scrambled and flew alongside it. Inside the cockpit, they saw something chilling. Both pilots were slumped in their seats, motionless. In the cabin, no one was moving. The aircraft flew until it ran out of fuel. Then, finally, it fell from the sky and slammed into the mountains near Athens. 121 people died. Not from impact. Not from fire. They were already gone. They died quietly, slowly, trapped in a flying coffin, while the plane kept going without them. On December 21st, 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 took off from London, bound for New York. It was supposed to be a normal transatlantic flight. It never made it. Just 38 minutes after takeoff, while cruising high above the quiet town of Lockerbie, Scotland, something unimaginable happened. A bomb exploded inside the cargo hold. In less than a second, the aircraft was ripped apart in midair. The nose of the plane was blown clean off. The rest of the fuselage broke into flaming pieces and began falling from the sky. There was no warning, no distress call, no chance. Passengers were still strapped in their seats as they were hurled out of the sky. Some were thrown from 30,000 feet. The debris didn't just hit the ground. It rained down on an entire town. One massive section of the plane crashed directly into a residential area, obliterating several houses and killing people who were still inside their homes. In total, 270 people died. Passengers, crew, and innocent people on the ground. Bodies and wreckage were scattered across miles of countryside. It wasn't just a plane. On June 1st, 2009, Air France Flight 447 took off from Rio de Janeiro to Paris with 228 people on board. It was a modern Airbus, highly advanced, considered extremely safe. Most of the passengers were asleep when the plane entered a massive storm system over the Atlantic Ocean. High above the ocean, ice crystals confused the plane's speed sensors. The autopilot shut off, and suddenly, in the middle of the night, in total darkness, the pilots were flying blind. What happened next is one of the most terrifying chains of mistakes in aviation history. The plane began to climb instead of descend. Its speed dropped. The aircraft entered a stall, but the pilots didn't realize it. For more than 3 minutes, the plane was falling out of the sky, almost flat, with the nose tilted upward. Inside the cabin, passengers likely felt weightlessness shaking, then a horrible, endless drop at 2:14 a.m. The plane hit the ocean at over 900 kilometers per hour. It didn't crash. It disintegrated. The impact was so violent that the aircraft shattered into thousands of pieces. When search team, if these stories are shocking you so far, take 1 second to hit the like button. It really helps this channel grow. Subscribe if you love real, dark, unbelievable human stories like this. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is over there. I always love reading them. Now, let's continue. On July 19th, 1989, United Airlines Flight 232 was flying from Denver to Chicago with 296 people on board. Halfway through the flight, something almost impossible happened. The tail engine exploded. But it didn't just fail. The explosion destroyed all 3 hydraulic systems. And in a commercial jet, that means one thing. The pilots lost all steering. No rudder. No elevators. No ailerons. The plane was now a 300,000-pound missile with wings. The only thing the crew could still control was engine thrust. They had to steer the plane by changing power between the left and right engines. They were literally guessing their way through the sky. On July 23, 1983, Air Canada Flight 143 was cruising at 41,000 feet over Canada. Everything seemed normal until it wasn't. Mid-flight, the pilots noticed something terrifying. Both engines stopped. The plane was now a giant glider at 41,000 feet. Why? A fuel miscalculation, a mix-up between liters and gallons, left the aircraft completely out of fuel. The pilots had no power, no thrust, no hydraulics for some systems. Every second mattered. The plane was now a 767 hurtling toward the ground. Captain Robert Pearson, a former Air Force glider instructor, took control. He had one shot to land safely. He calculated a glide path, identified an abandoned airstrip in Gimli, Manitoba, prepared for a high-speed landing without engines. The plane touched down like a missile, skidding on the old runway. Tires blew smoke and sparks erupted. Miraculously, all 69 passengers. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur bound for Beijing with 239 people on board. At first, the flight was routine, nothing seemed out of place. Then, somewhere over the South China Sea, all communication stopped. The plane vanished from radar, no distress signal, no known mechanical failure reported. The world watched in horror and disbelief as search teams scoured thousands of square miles. Weeks turned into months, and no definitive wreckage was found for years. What made it worse? Families had no closure, no clear explanation for the disappearance. Conspiracy theories ran rampant. Pieces of debris eventually washed ashore, but the main fuselage remains missing, making it one of the most baffling and terrifying aviation mysteries ever. MH370 isn't just a story about a plane crash. It is a nightmare of uncertainty, fear, and unanswered questions. In the end, these stories are a grim reminder. Even in the air, where we feel safest, life can change in an instant. From human error to mechanical failures and unexplained mysteries, the skies are unforgiving. These tragic incidents aren't just statistics. They are lives lost, families shattered, and dreams cut short. Remember, every time you step onto a plane, there's a story behind every flight. Some are terrifying, some are tragic, and some remain unsolved. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? And what time is it over there? Drop it in the comments. I love seeing how far this community reaches. And don't forget, like this video, share it with someone who's fascinated by aviation stories, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next shocking story. Stay curious, stay safe. And remember, the skies can be as unpredictable as they are beautiful.